Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman confirms exclusively to CNBC TV18 that work is already underway on public sector bank consolidation and discussions are ongoing. Adds that India needs a lot of big world-class banks to meet the growing needs of a fast-expanding economy. The Finance Minister clarifies that the government is not here to shut the door on F&O, but to remove the roadblocks. Adds that it is the investors' responsibility to understand risks involved with F&O sector. SBI Chairman CS Shetty bats for higher FII limit in government-owned banks, says 20% investment cap in PSU banks puts them at a disadvantage. Adds that differentiation between private and PSU banks on the FII component is not really helping them in terms of recognizing their true value. That's an exclusive. Mahindra and Mahindra sells its 3.5% stake in RBL Bank for 678 crore rupees. Its exit comes weeks before Middle East banking giant Emirates NBD's open offer to acquire a majority stake in RBL Bank. Mahindra Group CEO Anisha calls the stake sale a one-off treasury action. HPCL says they will abide by international law as US piles up pressure on India to stop purchases from sanctioned Russian entities. Calls the oil world diverse, says there is adequate amount of crude in the market and it's only a question of matching the right supply. United States Supreme Court expresses skepticism on the legality of Trump's tariffs, observes that the imposition of taxes on Americans has always been a core power of the US Congress, observes that no other president except Donald Trump has made use of these emergency powers to impose tariffs since it became a law in 1977. Birla Opus CEO Hargave resigns 18 months after Grasim Industries launched its paints division, will join Britannia as its new CEO from December 15th. Hargave's exit sparks a relief rally among other paint stocks. Grasim Industries slumps 6% today.
मेरे पापा को पास जो घर था वो भी हमें सेल करना पड़ा for our education. Still I couldn't make into these coachings.
Physicswallah's 3,480 crore rupee IPO opens for subscription on November 11, sets a price band in the range of 103 to 109 rupees a share. Co-founder Alak Pandey tells CNBC TV18 they plan to expand to 500 offline centers in 3 years, says their pricing reflects a vision for free and affordable education. 121 constituencies in Bihar go to polls in the first phase amid tight security. Over 1,300 candidates in the fray. Voter turnout stands at over 60%. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, RJD Supremo Lalu Prasad and opposition's CM candidate Tejasvi Yadav cast their vote in Patna. The US government shutdown enters the 37th day, is the longest in the country's history. The government orders a 10% reduction in flights at 40 major airports. Analysts say the shutdown may cost the economy $15 billion a week. Typhoon Kalmaegi makes landfall in Vietnam after leaving a trail of destruction in Philippines. Over 100 confirmed dead and nearly 130 people missing. This is the nation's deadliest natural disaster of the year. Straight to the day's market action. Dalal Street remained weak amid a broad-based decline. Broader markets underperformed the blue chips. The Nifty, however, managed to hold on to the 25,500 levels while it was a down day for the market. Here's some news that could provide a solace to the markets. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has clarified that the government is not here to shut the door on F&O. She was speaking at the SBI Banking Conclave in Mumbai today. She said that the government's job is to remove the F&O roadblocks and that it is the investors' responsibility to understand the risks.
उस पैसा को कुछ और रास्ता में लेके जाना मेरा इरादा नहीं है। जिस रास्ता में वो जाना चाहते हैं वो उनका मर्जी। सरकार रास्ता बदलने के लिए नहीं, मगर उस रास्ते में जिस तरह के नुकसान हो सकता है जो आप विस्तार से बात कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर, उसको अवेयरनेस के द्वारा बातें करेंगे या प्रोग्राम करेंगे, गांव-गांव तक जाकर बोलेंगे भैया संभालो आपको इतना नुकसान होगा, वो सब कर सकते हैं। मगर वो रास्ता किस रूट में जाना है वो बोलने का मेरा अधिकार नहीं बनता, ऐसे मैं समझती हूँ, क्योंकि पैसा उनका है।
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also confirmed to CNBC TV18 that work has commenced on PSB Bank consolidation and talks are on with the RBI.
I know that you've previously said that India needs not just world-class banks, it also needs world-sized banks. So, ma'am, is the government actively looking at further consolidation in the Indian banking sector? And is the government also actively looking at enhancing the FDI limit as far as public sector banks are concerned to 49%? Thank you very much.
No, I repeat that line. India needs a lot of big banks, world-class banks. And for that, of course, we will have to sit and talk with the Reserve Bank and also with the banks themselves to see how they want to take it forward. And also discuss with RBI about how they have an idea of taking or idea of building larger banks. So there's a lot of work to do prior to my saying, yes, I've taken a call or government is looking at this way or that way. And in that, work has already commenced. We are discussing with RBI, we are discussing with banks. It's not by creating from among those which exist today just by amalgamation. That can also be one of the route. But you need an ecosystem and also an environment in which more banks can operate and operate to grow. So that environment is actually well established in India, but I need it to be a bit more dynamic. So some work is happening on it.
Moving on, SBI Chairman C.S. Shetty batted for higher FII limit in government-owned banks. Speaking to CNBC TV18 as part of a panel at the SBI Conclave, Shetty said that 20% investment cap in PSU banks has put them at a disadvantage. He added that the differentiation between private and PSU banks on the FII component is not really helping the public sector banks in terms of recognizing their value.
I personally believe this differentiation between public sector and private sector banks, particularly in terms of what should be the FII component, I think is not really helping in terms of recognizing the true value of the public sector bank. Most of the FIIs look for the free, space available for them. And just compare a 10% free space available versus 74% which is looked at. So I believe that without compromising anything in terms of ability to have enough commitment from public sector banks, from the government, we are not looking at the dilution, right? Yeah. It is only free float. It's already available in the market.
HPCL Vikas Kaushal said that the company will abide by international law as US piles up pressure on India to stop purchases from sanctioned Russian entities. In a first public reaction to the sanctions, he said that the company is diversifying its sources of crude oil. He added that oil from the US is becoming more economical.
Responsible citizen, we have to comply with all sanctions. So we will abide by international law so we don't pick up sanctioned cargoes. Having said that, oil world is very diverse globally. There are multiple sources and organizations like ours are expanding the sources where we have looked at. And this does not happen over like, oh, I buy a cargo and run it on my refineries. Thankfully, this has been done over the years. So in our refineries, we can process about 180 different crudes. So literally every crude which is available in the world, we can process it. We have the properties, we know what can be made out of that. We are using that knowledge to diversify our sources. HPCL has signed gas-based deals on a Henry Hub. It's more applicable for getting LNG into India. But there is adequate amount of crude in the market, and it's only the question of matching the right supply with what you can run a lot more economically.
Speaking at the same panel, Dipali Goenka, MD and CEO at Wellspun Living, has hinted that US tariffs will not hurt the company's growth. She said that it was their time under the sun.
These indeed are very tough times, indeed. I mean, if you look at even the numbers, you can look at the export numbers to United States of America from May, fell by 37%, 8 billion in May to 5 billion now. So indeed, and you know the thing that I have seen, and I can talk about India and I can talk about Wellspun, we have our time in the sun now. The time when the world couldn't believe that we could make the best towels or the best textiles or the jewelry or anything else to wear. There is that belief and faith in the products that we make. These are challenging times indeed. But I think the important things that we believe are diversify smartly, operate efficiently, lead responsibly.
Tata Power's MD and CEO Praveer Sinha believes the centre is close to making a decision on a bailout package for state electricity distribution companies. Remember, CNBC TV 18 had reported that the government is considering multiple reform measures, including privatisation, partial stake sale and possible market listing of discoms. Sinha added that he hopes this will be the last bailout for power discoms.
So the discoms have been like that for last 30 years. It's not something that has happened in last 5 years or 10 years. But now at least there is a sense that this needs to change. Of course, there have been 2 bailouts which have happened, or 3 bailouts which have happened earlier. But hopefully this time there would be preconditions, and the preconditions are that they would go for public-private partnership or privatization exercise. So hopefully this should be the last bailout, and thereafter they should be on self-sustaining basis. So
what's the sense that you get on how close we are to that decision being taken?
I think we are very close to that. Mr. Shetty would be knowing that the total outstanding of all the discoms is something like 7 lakh crores, and it keeps on adding by 60-70,000 crores every year. So this cannot continue for very long, and people cannot put it under the carpet.
MobiKwik co-founder and CFO Upasana Taku has said that India's fintech space is very regulated, unlike other markets. Speaking to Shireen Bhan at the SBI Conclave, Taku added that the regulatory risks continue to be #1 for any fintech company.
In the last 6 months, we are the top 3 fastest growing UPI app. And this is despite the fact that we don't have a backer like some of the American trillion-dollar companies. So we don't have insane marketing budgets. We have huge pressure to turn EBITDA profitable ASAP basis. So yeah, I think that's sort of the uncertain times that we live and operate and build for. Yeah, I think regulatory risk continues to be the #1 risk for any fintech company.
State Bank of India's strong second quarter performance propelled the public sector bank past the $100 billion market cap milestone as the stock hit record highs. SBI is the 6th Indian company to enter the coveted $100 billion market cap club. Robust credit growth and festive spending also pushed the value of SBI's total business past the 100 trillion rupee mark. Speaking to CNBC TV 18's Shireen Bhan, SBI Chairman C.S. Shetty said that the bank aims to be one of the top 10 in the world in the next 5 years.
Top 10 by when? Top 10 in the world by when, Mr. Shetty? What's the timeline you're working with?
So there's no specific timeline, I think, but ideally we should be there even before 2030.
Even before 2030. So that's literally 5 years away. So that's an ambitious and an audacious task that you put forward for.
Since you mentioned audacious, I'll tell you how SBI thinks. In 2018 is the year where SBI posted loss for the first time in history. And we had a conference in Calcutta. The conference theme was, how do you reach 100 billion market capitalization? Rupees.
In the
$100 billion.
in the year that you posted a loss.
Loss.
Yes.
This is the audacity, I think, which we pursue.
The US Supreme Court has expressed skepticism about President Donald Trump's tariffs in an ongoing case examining the legality of the sanctions. Both conservative and liberal justices questioned the solicitor representing the Trump administration about the scope of the president's authority to impose sanctions. If the tariffs are invalidated, the US government could owe tens of billions of dollars of refunds to businesses that have paid them. Here's a report.
U.S. Supreme Court justices raised doubts Wednesday over the legality of President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs. Conservative and liberal justices alike sharply questioned U.S. Solicitor General B. John Sauer, who defended the legal rationale employed to impose the tariffs. Trump invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, a law that lets a president regulate commerce in a national emergency. Conservative Justice Amy Coney Barrett questioned Sauer's claim that IEEPA's language granting presidents emergency power to regulate importation encompasses tariffs.
Can you point to any other place in the code or any other time in history where that phrase, together regulate importation, has been used to confer tariff-imposing authority?
Liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said IEEPA was intended to limit presidential authority, not expand it.
It's pretty clear that Congress was trying to constrain the emergency powers of the president in IEEPA. So it seems a little inconsistent to say that we have to interpret a statute that was designed to constrain presidential authority, consistent with an understanding that Congress wanted the president to have essentially unlimited authority.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he thinks the administration is winning the argument.
I think it went very well. I think the Solicitor General made a very powerful case for the need for the president to have the IEEPA powers, and I believe that the other side, in a way, fell flat on their face. But that'll be up to SCOTUS.
The Supreme Court typically takes months to issue rulings after hearing arguments, but the Trump administration has asked it to act swiftly in this case.
Mahindra and Mahindra has sold its entire stake in RBL Bank via a block deal. In an exchange filing, the company said that it offloaded stake worth 678 crore rupees, representing around 62.5% gain on its investments. Speaking to Shireen Bhan at the SBI Conclave, Mahindra Group MD and CEO Anish Shah said that the RBL Bank stake sale was a one-off treasury action.
Speaking about meeting financial targets, and I want to digress for just a second before we get back to talking about the uncertain world that we live in. Your stake sale in RBL Bank, Anish, that's created quite the headlines. I mean, a neat 62% profit that you made over what you invested in RBL Bank, and it kind of puts to rest any possibility of what you intended to do with that stake. But is this kind of treasury business investing that you're looking at actively now from here on the back of the gains that you made?
So Shireen, we were joking that if we had a rupee for every time there was a discussion on RBL Bank, we would have had more gains than we actually made in RBL Bank. So no, this was a one-off treasury action where we actually saw significant value, but we're actually creating a lot more value in our businesses, as you've seen.
So you're not going to be investing like you did in RBL Bank in other companies at this point in time?
We are not.
That was a one-off.
And from one block deal to another, sources have told CNBC TV18 that Singtel might sell less than 1% stake in Bharti Airtel via a block deal. The size of the deal is likely to be around 10,300 crore rupees. The floor price of the deal has been set at 2,030 rupees per share, and this is a discount of slightly over 3% to the current market price. Britannia has appointed Rakshit Hargave as its new Chief Executive Officer. Hargave will take over from the 15th of December. Hargave resigned from his position as CEO of Birla Opus yesterday. He would succeed Rajneet Kohli, who quit Britannia in May. Meanwhile, Grasim has said that the day-to-day operations of Birla Opus will now be overseen by Aditya Birla Group veteran Himanshu Kapania. EdTech services company Physicswallah has set its price band for its upcoming 3,400 crore rupee initial public offering. The band has been set between 103 to 109 rupees per share. The public issue will open for subscription from the 11th of November. Speaking to CNBC TV18, company CEO Alak Pandey recounted this journey as an entrepreneur, from starting a YouTube channel to prepping for a Dalal Street debut.
अब मैंने स्टार्ट किया था अपने होम टाउन प्रयागराज से. वाई आई डिड इट, मैं जब क्लास 12 में था तो मेरे को भी बड़ा मन था कि मैं आईटी का एग्ज़ाम लिखूं और उसके लिए कोचिंग जाऊं. पर वहाँ की जो फीस होती थी 1.5 लाख रुपए 2 लाख रुपए, वो मैं अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकता था. मेरे पापा को पास जो घर था वो भी हमें सेल करना पड़ा फॉर आवर एजुकेशन. इसलिए आई कुडंट मेक इनटू दीज कोचिंग्स. तो मेरे अंदर हमेशा रह गया था कि मेरे साथ फेयर नहीं हुआ है. मेरी गलती नहीं है कि मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है, मुझे फेयर अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं मिली है एग्ज़ाम लिखने की, और वो हमेशा अंदर रह गया था सिंस क्लास 12. जब YouTube पे आया पढ़ाने तब मुझे मेरे जैसे बहुत से बच्चे इंडिया में दिखे जो टैलेंटेड हैं, बट उनको फेयर अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल नहीं रही है बिकॉज दे कैन नॉट अफोर्ड 2 लाख की कोचिंग, 1.5 लाख की कोचिंग। तो मुझे ऐसा लगा यार मुझे फ्री में पूरे इंडिया को पढ़ाना चाहिए।
You know, when you started, Byju's was the poster child of EdTech. It was already a well-established company. Its peak valuation, I think, was more than $20 billion. It raised top dollar from the top funds. I mean, what were your learnings from the way Byju conducted its business and then the eventual downfall?
What these players were targeting, I don't want to take any name. He is a fantastic teacher, first of all. But what these players were targeting is top 3% of India, जो इतनी फीस दे सकता है, 80,000 रुपए, 60,000 रुपए। और इस 80,000 रुपए के कोर्स को बेचने के लिए आपको 40,000 रुपए की मार्केटिंग कॉस्ट लगेगी हमेशा, क्योंकि इट्स अ हाई आरपू कोर्स। किसी के पास कोई सोशल मीडिया नहीं था, कोई फ्री नहीं पढ़ा रहा था। हम उनसे बहुत डिफरेंट है। हमारा कोर्स उनसे 1/20th कॉस्ट पे बैठा हुआ है। हमारे पास नीचे वाली 97% वाली जनता है, जो कि बहुत बड़ा टाइम है अगर इन्वेस्टर अपॉर्चुनिटी से आप देखो, और मेरी नजर से देखो तो बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है कि आपको एक बच्चे को वहां पढ़ाना है। So we are very different from these players.
Physicswallah is the first company in the consumer internet reached $300 million of revenue in just 5 years. Like, you pick any consumer internet company, average time they took to reach $300 million of revenue is 5 years.
And coming up next on India Business Hour, the US government shutdown enters the 37th day, is the longest in the country's history. More details in a bit. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Geo Hotstar. Do subscribe to CNBC TV 18 Access for exclusive stories and special shows like the Editor's Playbook and many others. Welcome back. The big national story. 121 of the 243 constituencies in Bihar went to polls today. Several top leaders, including opposition's CM candidate Tejasvi Yadav, Deputy Chief Minister Samrat Chaudhary and Vijay Kumar Sinha are contesting in Phase 1. Over 60% of eligible voters have cast their vote as of 5 p.m. The US government shutdown is now the longest in its history. It enters its 37th day today, beating the previous record of 35 days that was set during President Donald Trump's first term. The US Senate has rejected the funding package 14 times so far. The lack of an agreement between Republicans and Democrats has disrupted the lives of millions of Americans, with federal program cuts, flight delays and federal workers nationwide left without paychecks. The US Transport Secretary has said he will reduce flight capacity by 10% at 40 major airports from Friday due to the government shutdown. As per a Bloomberg report, analysts estimate that the shutdown is costing the economy $15 billion a week. Asia's most powerful tropical storm this year, Typhoon Kalmaegi, has hit Vietnam's coastline after killing 114 people in the Philippines. Over 120 went missing after entire towns were drowned across the Philippines. The Cebu province was hit the hardest, with flash floods causing extensive damage in residential areas. This comes just months after the Philippines was hit by Super Typhoon Ragasa and a 7.4 magnitude earthquake. And before we wrap, Sanjeevani United Against Cancer is Network 18's flagship campaign in partnership with Federal Bank, the Hormus Memorial Foundation and Tata Trust. It is dedicated to spreading awareness and promoting early detection of cancer, asking this mission deeper into the heart of India. Sanjeevani has now launched its rural outreach initiative with CAPE as the on-ground partner.
Welcome to the Sanjeevani Newsline. Cancer in India is growing at an alarming pace. A recent Lancet report shows that cancer cases have risen 26%. From 84.8 per lakh population in 1990 to 107.2 per lakh in 2023. Cancer deaths too have increased by 21% over the past 3 decades. In contrast, both the US and China have seen a decline in cancer incidences and mortality over the same period, thanks to factors such as early detection, better treatment, and strong public health interventions. China recorded a 19% fall in new cancer cases and a 43% decline in deaths, while the US reported a 20% drop in incidence and 33% reduction in mortality. The report also notes that 42% of the 10.4 million cancer deaths worldwide in 2023 were linked to preventable or controllable risk factors such as tobacco use, alcohol consumption, poor diet, and infections like HPV and hepatitis B. Tobacco alone accounts for 21% of all global cancer deaths. Experts say India's trajectory is moving in the opposite direction and call for an urgent nationwide response, expanding screening programs, integrating cancer care within universal health coverage, and strengthening prevention strategies to curb modifiable risks.